Hi, my name is Elise, and you're listening to Chatterbox Island English Podcast. Welcome back to Chatterbox Island English Podcast. I'm your host, Elise. If you're new to this podcast, hello and welcome. This is an all-English podcast, but we don't talk about grammar rules or vocabulary like other English learning podcasts. Instead, we just talk about some easy and everyday topics. And I usually put all the keywords of each episode down in the description, so feel free to check it out if you want to. I hope you'll find this show interesting, and be sure to subscribe if you enjoy the content. So in the last episode, we talked about the 7 personal boundaries, where they came from, and how to set up new ones. If you haven't listened to that episode, you can check it out after this one. And if you want to listen to any previous episodes of this podcast, you can click on any platform that you're listening to right now. For today's episode, we're gonna talk about procrastination, which I'm sure many of you guys can relate to, whether it's finishing assignments or reports on the last minute, studying for a really important exam on the night before, or simply just don't do stuff that you want to do or you have to do. But why do we procrastinate? The first answer you think of might be lack of self-control or laziness, but according to psychology, that's not the case. At least it might not be the main reason. So there are 2 types of procrastination. One is active and the other is passive. Most of us just passively procrastinate, but some people do it on purpose. That's why it's called active procrastination. People who actively procrastinate decide to do so because they know they work better under pressure. So let's say an active procrastinator has 5 reports to finish before Friday. Instead of doing one on each day, or at least spreading the work throughout the week, they might push most of the work on the last day because they know they can probably do it faster and more efficiently right before the deadline. That sounds a bit risky, right? But I don't think I can deny the fact that our brain will turn into this emergency mode and work a lot faster when we're under pressure and forced to be focused. At least I've definitely had the experience of finishing my midterm essays right before the day I was supposed to submit it. Although I wasn't procrastinating intentionally, it definitely pushed me to finish the essays that I wasn't even sure how to start. So the other type of procrastination is the most common one, which is passive procrastination, especially when it comes to our own personal goals or plans, because there are no hard deadlines. There is no one pushing us to do it except for ourselves. So why exactly do we passively procrastinate? Well, everyone has different reasons, but we can break them down to 4 essential causes. The first one is being a perfectionist. This sounds a bit strange because we might imagine a perfectionist as someone who would do anything to make sure everything's perfect. And why would a perfectionist do things on the last minute? Well, being a perfectionist means you have this perfect idea or goal in your mind, but you are worried that the outcome is going to be less than perfect. So let's say you are an artist and today you want to draw a picture on a piece of blank paper. You might already have this perfect image of how your work is going to be, but you are too afraid to start because once you draw anything on the paper, it's probably not going to be as perfect as you imagine it would be. So naturally, you put it off. The second one is seeing your goal as one big project instead of little tasks. Okay, so you might already take the first step and start drawing. Then you don't want to continue anymore. You might feel overwhelmed, or you might think it's impossible to finish or transfer this perfect image in your head onto the paper. It might take a few days, weeks, or even months to achieve your goal, and naturally it's going to be imperfect during the process. But now all you can see is a half-finished or probably ugly project, which makes you don't want to continue anymore, and so you keep putting it off. The third one is fear of failure. It's very much like the first cause, which is being a perfectionist. The fear of failure makes you procrastinate because you cannot fail if you don't do it at all, right? It is also related to several other reasons, such as performance anxiety or lack of self-confidence. The bottom line is you keep putting off your goals because you are afraid that you are not going to succeed. The fourth one is having trouble focusing. I think this could either be the cause or the effect of procrastination. If you are easily distracted by something else, of course you're going to keep putting things off, but it can also be the effect. You might keep doing everything else to procrastinate your actual goal so that you won't feel guilty about not doing anything at all. These are the 4 main causes of procrastination. So how do we stop procrastinating? Well, I've learned and found a couple of strategies, and you can decide which one suits you the best. The first one is the 70% rule. If you are a perfectionist or someone who is afraid of failure, this could be for you. So the 70% rule is really simple. Basically, you aim for 70% instead of 100%. Before you start your projects or goals, ask yourself, can I make it 100% perfect? The answer is probably going to be no because you're a perfectionist. But you can ask yourself, can I make it to at least 70% of perfection? Well, yeah, sure, that sounds a lot easier, right? That way you won't be so scared of starting your work because you know you can do it 70% right or 70% perfect. The second strategy is breaking the ice. Well, not with people or relationships, but with the project that you are working on. This is the strategy that my professor in writing class taught us back in college. He described starting to write an essay as diving into a tub of iced water. It's going to be painful and uncomfortable when you first dive into it. But soon your body will get used to it and you'll realize that it is much easier than you thought it would be. And if you don't know where to start, take a piece of paper and just brainstorm. While you are brainstorming, you don't have to worry about being perfect or making mistakes. Just write down anything that comes into your mind so that your brain can warm up a little bit and you can probably get some ideas out of it. The third one is making lists. If you're someone who is easily overwhelmed by the idea of a big project, break it down to little steps that you can take. That way you can focus on one small thing at a time and get a sense of achievement when you check it off your lists. So here are the 3 strategies that I've learned and found through my own experience and research. But feel free to share your thoughts or your own way of stopping procrastination down in the YouTube comment section or Apple Podcasts review section. And that's all for today's Chatterbox Island English podcast. Also, a quick note before we end this episode. A few days ago, I was going through our email inbox and I found that one of you guys left a voice message on Anchor back in July, which is a long time ago. It was a really kind message, and I'm really sorry that I didn't find out about it sooner. But if you're the one who left the message on Anchor and you're listening to this podcast right now, thank you for your kind message, and I really do appreciate it. As of right now, we don't have a dedicated Instagram account for this podcast, but you can always leave a message through Anchor, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or our Facebook fan page, which is called English Island, 英语岛杂志. I'll leave the link in the description so you can check it out. So anyways, if you enjoyed this episode, you can subscribe to our show on Anchor, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, KKBox, and SoundOn. You can also find our shows on YouTube and go on our website, that's www.eisland.com.tw for more information. I'm your host, Elise, and I'll talk to you soon in the next episode. Bye!